Pokemon Go news. The gift that keeps on giving. Even though sometimes you fail to make a video on said gifts and they turn out to expire before you get a chance to fully edit the videos on them. Whoops. Um, where was I going with this? Oh, right. We have some news. All right. First and foremost, I know this is kind of a bit of super late news, but what is it? If you've missed it, there have been a couple of slice of life updates that have been added to Pokemon Go. The first of which is an update to the appraisal system. So for this update, instead of your team leader providing a message that you have to decrypt in order to figure out the percentage of your Pokemon stats, that has been replaced with a 3-star system to show the exact percentage, as well as each stat being displayed through a 3-tiered bar system. So for the most part, each stat can go up to a maximum number of 15. So since it's split into 3, each one of course represents a maximum of 5. Honestly, I think this is actually a really great improvement to the appraisal system. It may take some time getting used to, but it's definitely one of the closest ways they can get to showing the exact IVs for Pokemon, especially since they're not allowed to show the actual numbers for each of the stats of the Pokemon. Next up, for trainer battles, the way to charge up a charge move has been changed. So instead of having to rapidly tap the screen in order to charge up the charge move, each one will kind of come with its own partially unique mini game for each type of move. So if it was a dragon move, it'll kind of simulate Draco Meteor, where a bunch of the dragon type symbols will come kind of descend from one corner of the screen to the other. And maybe for a psychic type move, it'll be more of a ring type of motion. Ultimately, this update just provides a nice little fun, little mini game to do instead of just having to tap the screen in order to get your charge move to be fully charged. And the last bit of super late slice of life update news: new movesets have been provided to various different Pokemon. I'll leave a chart either on screen or in the description below. Ultimately, this is to kind of shake up and rebalance some of the Pokemon so they could have potentially more use in trainer battles. But the most exciting thing to come out of this is that we finally have our very first fairy type fast move, and that move is Charm. Next up in relatively late news, from now until September 2nd at 11 p.m. Pacific Time, Rayquaza will be making a return as the legendary raid boss. And what makes his return particularly exciting in this case is that you now have a chance to encounter a shiny Rayquaza. Personally, I find this very exciting because shiny Rayquaza is honestly one of my favorite shiny Pokemon. I mean, it just looks epic, and just very excited that now have a chance to grab a shiny form of it. So for anyone who is planning to battle Rayquaza in raids, while it is technically possible to defeat Rayquaza with only 2 people, most of the time the minimum amount of people required to defeat Rayquaza and more comfortably would probably be around 4 or 5. Maybe 6 or 7 depending on how high everyone's level is in the battle. Also worth noting, if you're battling Rayquaza, it does have a double weakness to ice, so any ice type Pokemon that you may have will definitely be very valuable against it. Other thing to note is that it is weak to dragon, rock, and fairy types. Be sure to keep that in mind when you go to battle any Rayquaza raids. And another thing to note is that there are still legendary raid hours on Wednesdays from 6 to 7 p.m. at your local time. Be sure to keep an eye out for those to better increase your chance of getting a shiny Rayquaza. Next bit of slightly late news. Our next bit of news: Team Go Rocket has invaded Pokemon Go. So if you happen to have been playing the game and have noticed that some of the Pokestops have been partially discolored and maybe having a bit of and maybe seem like it's freaking out, that indicates that there's a Team Go Rocket Grunt at that Pokestop. So when you spin that stop, you'll be challenged by said Team Rocket Grunt. Well, they will challenge you with some admittedly pretty powerful Shadow Pokemon. Definitely try your best to come with the best counters that you possibly can. Usually they'll have a saying right before the battle that indicates what type of Pokemon is at least their strongest Pokemon. I'll leave a link in the description to a list of what their usual sayings are. Once you manage to defeat the Grunt, they will leave behind a Shadow Pokemon which you can then catch and potentially purify. If a Pokemon is still in its Shadow form, unfortunately it will require a lot more Stardust to power it up, and it will start at a very weak, it will start originally at a very low level, and it'll be very difficult to power it up. But if you do manage to purify it, it will not only jump up to level 25 automatically, but each of its stats will be increased by a total of 2, and it will learn the exclusive charge move Return. Now, unfortunately, Return is not exactly the greatest of charge moves to have in practically any sense, but you may get a potentially powerful Pokemon out of purifying it, or if you just want to keep it as a Shadow Pokemon just for the aesthetic, no one's stopping you. So the original list of Shadow Pokemon that you could get after battling a Go Rocket Grunt are the 3 starter Pokemon, as well as Zubat, Rattata, Dratini, Snorlax, and Mudkip. But recently, they've added more possible Pokemon that you can get from. They have recently released more Shadow Pokemon, and these Pokemon are Poliwag, Grimer, Drowsy, Cubone, Scyther, Magikarp, Houndour, and Ralts. And of course, all of the evolutions of these Pokemon can be in its Shadow form as well. So if you're looking to get the Shadow variants of each of these Pokemon, just be on the lookout for any discolored Pokestops as you're out and about. Next bit of news. We've got a special gift event from now until Monday, August 15th at 1 p.m. Pacific time. For this event, the number of gifts that you can open will be increased from 20 to 30, and the number of gifts that you can store in your inventory will be increased from 10 to 20. Not only that, but the eggs that are provided from gifts will drop down from 7-kilometer eggs to 2-kilometer eggs, but they will still provide the same type of Pokemon that you'd usually get when you open gifts. So those usually include all of the baby Pokemon as well as the Alolan Pokemon. This egg change is particularly exciting during this event because you may have a chance to hatch a shiny Bonsly. So definitely worth to try and open as many gifts as you can to try and get as many 2K eggs as you can. So that maybe you might get yourself a shiny Bonsly, or maybe some of the other shiny baby Pokemon, or some of the shiny Alolan Pokemon. So many shinies. Can't keep up, man. Can't. One more bit of Stardust / shiny news today. The September Community Day has been announced, and the featured Pokemon is Turtwig. So on Sunday, September 15th, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. in your local time, Turtwig will appear more frequently in the wild. And if you're lucky, you'll be able to encounter its shiny variant. Not only that, but during that time, once again, lures will be active for 3 hours instead of half an hour. You'll gain 3 times as much catch Stardust during that time. And if you evolve your Turtwig all the way up to its final evolution of Torterra, it will learn an exclusive charge move. That move has not quite been announced yet, but if it follows the same trend as all the other Grass Starter community events, it'll most likely be Frenzy Plant, but we will see how that turns out. Next up, from September 20th all the way till September 22nd, there will be a Safari Zone event being held in Montreal, Canada. More specifically, in Parc Jean Drapeau on St. Helens Island and Notre Dame Island in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. More details will be released later on about the event, but for now, all we know is that a lot of the Pokemon that will be appearing in Montreal will also be appearing globally, and Yanma specifically will be appearing more frequently in the wild. So there might be a possibility that there's a shiny variant of Yanma coming out during the Safari Zone event, but That one we're not quite sure yet. Most likely, but we'll see what happens as we get closer to September 20th. Last bit of news: the first season of the Silph Arena tournaments are coming to a close. With this month's tournament theme being the Mirror Cup. Basically, any tournaments being held during this month can follow any of the rules that were set by any of the previous cups. So those ones include the Boulder Cup, Twilight Cup, Tempest Cup, Kingdom Cup, Nightmare Cup, Rainbow Cup, Jungle Cup, or the Season 1 Regionals. So that's all of the news I have for today. Hopefully, once again, I'll be able to get to this news more when it breaks, so I don't have to make these incredibly long and seemingly super late and possibly last minute kind of videos. I will see you guys in the next video.